Hey, it's your girl Katrina. So, we have to get into last week's Beverly Hills Housewives. This was more of an emotional episode because of some of the things that came out. So, let's first talk about Sutton, okay? So, her and Jennifer go to lunch and then come to find out her ex-husband is dating her friend, okay? If that ain't trifling, baby, I don't know what is, okay? And the worst part is, she's known this friend for quite some while because in the after show, she talked about how she knew this girl since both of their kids was in kindergarten. And the awkward part is now her kids got to be around them knowing, they used to be friends and stuff. It's just like, child, men just don't even care. It's like, how trifling are you do that? And then here's my other question is, okay, if he's moving on with your friend, does that mean that they was eyeing each other all this time? That's what I think, for them to get together that quick. So anyway, I felt a little bad for Sutton because it's bad enough you got to move on, which is fine. But to move on with my friend, it's like, really? You couldn't even get out the neighborhood? Like, you can find anybody else but her? But okay, cool. Y'all want each other, have each other. Whatever. So that's Sutton. So then let's talk about Dorit a little bit. So, they're still in the Hamptons. Dorit, Kyle, and Rachel are still in the Hamptons together. And they decide to go have a little retail therapy, And, Dorit's in the store, and Dorit kind of acting like she lost her mind. Like, she just wants to buy everything left and right and this and that. If we're going to be honest, Rachel was helping her a little bit. But she was buying a lot of stuff, and then her card declines. Now, to be fair, I don't think her card declined because she didn't have the money. I really think it might have been one of those security frauds that might have came through. Because, I think we all have had that, like, after you make a large purchase, sometimes your credit card will say, hey, was this really you? So I actually think that's what happened at that moment. I don't think her card declined. I'm going to give her that. But I think my thing with Dorit is she has to be mindful. She is just the most oblivious person known to mankind. And don't get me wrong, she has a right to spend her money how she wants to spend it. But when you're in other legal proceedings, you got to be a little bit more mindful of our perception, right? Because if PK's lawyers is watching this episode, and if there's discussions about any type of financial support, they might say, oh, well, you see how she just went in that store and bought all of these things? We don't need to give her this kind of money because all she's going to do is blow it. That's what the lawyers might be saying. So she got to be mindful of what she does, at least while she's on camera. What you do in your own private business is one thing because they can't prove that. But baby, what you do on camera, you got to be more mindful of it. And I kind of agree with Kyle a little bit. Like, she does seem to be a little bit scattered this season. And I guess she might be juggling a lot that she just doesn't really talk about even outside of divorce. Because let's face it, she has to adjust now to a different lifestyle. And she kind of said that in her own words. She said, before she used to spend without thinking about it when she was spending PK money. But now she got to spend her own money. It's a little bit different. So, I just need her to be more mindful and really think through what she does. But speaking of Dorit, let's talk about Kyle's discussion about her, with Bose. Here's my thing about Kyle. I don't know. First of all, I don't even know why Kyle is going back and telling Bose her thoughts. Like, Bose is not going to go back and tell Dorit. We already know this. Because you see on the episode, the trailer for next week, Bose is pretty much telling Dorit how Kyle said she was acting manic. And I don't even think that's exactly what Kyle said. But why even go there? But Kyle, too, has to be mindful about what she says on camera, too. Because it's not a good look for Kyle to be her friend and say on camera, hey, I think she's acting a little erratic. Because what? Once again, PK's lawyers are going to be like, see, your own friend is saying this about you. So I think Kyle has to be more mindful about that too, instead of just running your mouth all the time. She had already said she was going to mind her business. So what happened to that? Baby, why you not minding your business? Let Dorit do whatever Dorit going to do. Granted, you got some pause for concern, but this is the way I see it too, though. If Kyle is really that concerned, why not pull Dorit aside and say, hey, girl, I just want to check in and see if you're doing okay. I've been noticing you've been a little bit erratic. I feel like if you would do something like that, it looks a little bit better because it shows that you're being a friend, but it doesn't look good when you're always just talking about her. And you already know Dorit don't want to hear nothing coming from you. So why you keep running your mouth about her? Like, just leave her alone at this point. Dorit's going to do what she's going to do, and she got to learn the whole way. So again, if you guys are really that concerned, pull her aside as a friend and say, hey, girl, I just want to check in on you. And then let's talk about, the dinner for a second where Rachel's parents came. It was rude. It's just of Dorit to just come down and be so late. My thing is, y'all at the house already. You're already at the location. You mean to tell me you can't put some clothes on just to come downstairs? It made no sense that everybody had to wait for her to come downstairs. And Kyle is right. Like, a lot of times, Dorit just be in her own mind, her own world, and she just has no concern about how it affects other people. It's like, girl, you just going downstairs. You ain't got to have on black tie affair. It's just downstairs. You look a little nice, move on. So it was rude for her not to make the effort to be on time, to come downstairs. I mean, really. But like I said, if you're really concerned about your friend, tell her to her face. That's the only thing. Tell her to her face. So that's where Kyle and Dorit concerned. But let's talk about Rachel. Okay? Rachel had a very interesting conversation about her divorce. She said some things that made me, scratch my head a little bit. So when she was at the table, she basically, divulged to the girls that Roger, admitted to her, hey, I cheated. And he did it just to kind of get a reaction out of her. But also, she admitted that she cheated on him before they even got married. And then the next day, he popped up with a proposal. And it's just like, really? I'm kind of with Kyle a little bit on this, because that's just a weird way to start a relationship. But here's my thing. I'm going to play devil's advocate where Roger is concerned. And it's not because I'm condoning his actions. I'm not doing that at all. But I do think we got to play a little devil's advocate, right? Because I feel like there are some things that people are not, seeing where Roger is concerned. First of all, Rachel says that, she can't take him back after cheating, because once trust is broken, you can't get back to that. But he took you back. You know what I mean? And she admitted that she cheated on him with a male model because he was so gorgeous, he was so hot, whatever. And she just kind of fell for it. And she cheated on him. So my thing is, if Roger can forgive you, then why you can't forgive him? If you're saying that this was the one time that Roger stepped out on you, because you said that he's never looked at another girl, like you was talking on the after show, like you never looked at anybody else. So I understand, they weren't married at the time, but the way I see it, even if you guys weren't married, you guys were still in a committed relationship. And if you think about it, Roger actually had it worse than Rachel, right? Because even after he forgave Rachel still had to do a lot of traveling, meeting up with models and male celebrities. So there still had to be a lot of trust throughout the marriage that she's not going to step out again. But he decided to trust her, right? So I don't know if I hear you about cheating, but at the same time, it's kind of hard for you to say that when you did it also. You know what I mean? So that's the first part about it. And then here's something else I don't think people are thinking about. Is it possible that Roger is the male version of Kyle? Now walk with me for a second, because I know some of you guys are scratching your head, what does she mean by that? So if you think about it, in the very beginning, both Roger and Kyle were very supportive of their spouses' businesses, okay, or their career endeavors. Roger supported Rachel being a stylist. Kyle supported Mauricio building his business because they wanted them to be successful, okay? And, mind you, in the beginning, Roger had his own life. He was an investment banker. Like she mentioned, he was an investment banker before he started working for her. And, as their businesses grew, what did the spouses do? They joined forces with them, right? So like in Roger's case, he put aside his career to start working for Rachel to help build their brand. But I think what's lost on people is the fact that even though they were supportive, or even though both Kyle and Roger were supportive of their spouses, I think both Rachel and Mauricio became much bigger than what any of them could have anticipated, right? It's one thing to start off saying, hey, I want to be a stylist. And the next thing you know, you got a brand, you got a whole Rachel Zoe brand, building an empire. You're one of the hottest stylists in Hollywood, okay? And don't get me wrong, I'm not mad with her for building a business. But I think it became a lot more than what they originally signed up for. Same thing with Kyle. And Kyle has actually said this, right? Because Mauricio went from starting a brokerage to now having this whole international brokerage that's gotten so big, okay? And if you recall on the show, Kyle has made comments like why, did they let the business interfere with their relationship? And when is enough going to be enough? So I think it's possible that Roger might have felt the same thing because, I'm glad that both of them are successful and everybody should, go after their dreams. But I think the problem is when you become as big as Rachel and Mauricio, sometimes people like that have a tendency to take up all of the room in the relationship. And there's no room for the other spouse because everything starts to revolve around them and their business. And I think that's kind of what happened with Roger. I think he became so intertwined with her business, her life, that he forgot who he was and what he wanted. And maybe his identity kind of got lost in all of that. And to kind of prove my point, in the after show, both Erica and Kyle admitted they didn't know anything about Roger. They thought that Roger just worked for Rachel. They didn't even know that he was an investment banker before, and Sutton had to tell them that. So it kind of proves my point. So it's I guess when people look at him, they just automatically attach him to Rachel because that's all they know about him. And it's not about him being insecure, but everybody also wants to feel secure in their own identity, right? again, you want to support your spouse, but you also want to be true to who you are as well. And I think it's possible that both Kyle and Roger just got so swept up into their spouses, so they just kind of needed to take a step back. And if we think about it, this is exactly why Kyle is breaking up with Mauricio, because she said it got to be too much, and she was getting to the point where she wanted to slow down a little bit, and Mauricio's not there, because again, he wanted enough. So is it possible that maybe Roger felt a little bit neglected and just felt a little lost in the relationship because it was all about Rachel? Now, granted, we don't know this for a fact. This is just me hypothesizing, but that's what it kind of looks like from the outside in, especially when she made the comment that he told her about the cheating because he wanted to get a reaction out of her. He wanted to know that she even still cared, because it's possible that she might have been so caught up in what she was doing that she might not have noticed some things. Because people only see things from their perspective, especially when you become so busy and you're all about your business. She probably did forget about him. If I'm going to be honest, she probably still loved him, but maybe he felt like an afterthought in the relationship. The same thing goes with Kyle. Maybe she definitely felt like an afterthought a little bit, because she's admitted that. So I think it's possible they were in the same boat, but I feel like Roger gets less grace because he's a man, and people expect men to just suck it up, and they're not supposed to have feelings about different things. But I think she has to acknowledge that he put aside a lot to help her build her brand as well, right? So, you can't say, well, he's middle-aged and he's not at a point where he wanted to be. Well, maybe that was because he was trying to support you and who you wanted to be, right? So we got to be fair a little bit there. And I think that's why he made the comment that I think when they were having dinner, he said that he's happier now than he has been. And maybe because right now he's able to reclaim a part of who he was. And again, it got lost in the shuffle. So I think that's probably a contention point in their relationship. Let's talk about Bowles in that dinner. I thought it was nice that they included her daughter into the discussion, because it's good for her to be included and for her to see where he stands on things. But I found it interesting that he was like, well, so what are you going to do if, my income is gone and I don't have any more money and whatever? And I'm just like, why are we even thinking that way? I guess you're trying to see if she's in it for the money, but Bose has her own money, so I don't even know why this is a thought. So that kind of had me scratching my head a little bit, like, I don't know what that's really about. But it was a little comforting to see that, because she asked him, she was like, hey, well, what happens if I can't give you a baby? He was just like, well, I'm happy with the way things are. I'm happy to still be a stepfather. So I thought that was good. But I don't know, we got to keep an eye out on him, because it's just like, why are we worrying about your income, right? Because if you're a man and you know how to make it, understand things can happen, but you should always be about your hustle, right? So I don't know, scratching my head a little bit about that. I'm just interested in that was even a concern for him, because it's like, why are you concerned about losing your income? Is there something we don't know about? I don't know. Right now, I realize things can happen, but I just thought that was a little bit interesting. So I guess we'll have to stay tuned to see what happens with these people. But it was a lot of scratch your head moments. We also show Erica going through therapy. Erica just feels weighed down with everything she has going on. And I couldn't imagine. I mean, it's a lot. So to find out, not only she got the $25 million that she got to worry about, he left her with a $10 million tax bill too. That's a lot. So I can understand Erica feeling like she's on the brink and she's on the edge and she just wants some relief. So I wonder, is there a part of her that regrets marrying him, even though she had this, good life with him? But look, that life came with a cost too. She's definitely paying for it now. So I do wonder if there's a part of her that regrets even marrying him. Maybe it would have been better off for her to stay a waitress, but I don't know. It's hard. Hindsight's 2020. Maybe she had to get to that to get to the point where she is now, but I feel for her because that can't be easy. So, anyway, well, that's all they had this week, child. But we will stay tuned, because I think they're going on vacation soon. I think that's where all the real drama kicks in. So if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.